The reality television world is blindsided when breaking headlines begin circulating about the alleged split between Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris, a couple long seen as one of the genre's most resilient and unshakable pairs. What was expected to be just another day in the entertainment cycle suddenly transforms into a media firestorm as whispers turn into bold claims. And those claims explode into full-scale controversy. Fans who have followed their journey for years are stunned, confused, and emotionally shaken, questioning how a bond that survived public scrutiny, legal battles, and reality show pressures could suddenly appear fractured. But the shock doesn't stop there, because just as the public is trying to process the breakup rumors, an even bigger twist detonates: Tamar Braxton's unexpected involvement in a courtroom situation tied to the unfolding drama. The association alone is enough to send blogs, gossip platforms, and entertainment news outlets into overdrive. Tamar's name carries weight, influence, and history in the reality TV space. And her sudden connection to Yandy and Mendeecees instantly raises eyebrows and ignites speculation. Within minutes, social media transforms into a battlefield of opinions. Hashtags trend. Fan pages clash and timelines flood with disbelief, outrage, conspiracy theories, and emotional reactions. Some insist the situation is fabricated for ratings. Others fear a real betrayal has occurred, while many simply can't make sense of how these three names collided in such explosive fashion. The chaos spreads across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X, with influencers analyzing every clue, fans dissecting past episodes for signs, and commentators questioning whether this scandal could mark one of the biggest turning points in reality television history. The energy online is frantic, electric, and almost cinematic, as if the audience has been dropped into the middle of a plot twist nobody saw coming. And in the midst of all this confusion, one thing becomes crystal clear: whatever happened behind the scenes wasn't small, wasn't accidental, and definitely wasn't harmless. This moment feels less like a rumor and more like the beginning of a seismic shift. Something massive just went down. Something powerful enough to shake fan loyalty, disrupt industry narratives, and rewrite the public perception of everyone involved. Section 1 sets the tone for a story that's bigger than gossip, the start of a reality TV earthquake. The world wasn't prepared for what was expected to be a calm, procedural legal appearance connected to the ongoing situation involving Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris. Suddenly spirals into one of the most chaotic and talked about moments in recent reality TV history, turning a routine courtroom setting into what witnesses later describe as a full-blown emotional battleground. As the doors close and the proceedings begin, tension already simmering due to the headlines surrounding the alleged split thickens like smoke in the air, leaving everyone inside bracing for something they can't quite name but can definitely feel. Tamar Braxton's presence, already a lightning rod for speculation, amplifies the energy in the room, and the slightest shift in tone becomes enough to ignite sparks. What starts as clipped, guarded statements rapidly escalates into sharp verbal exchanges, accusations flying with a level of intensity no one anticipated. The professionalism of the environment fractures as personal emotions break through, turning the courtroom into a raw display of hurt, betrayal, ego, and unanswered questions. Eyewitnesses later described the atmosphere as electrified, saying it felt less like a legal proceeding and more like a live confrontation you'd expect on a high-stakes reunion stage, only this time there were no cameras, no scripts, no producers, just real people and real consequences. Some attendees claim they could physically feel the shift when voices rose, chairs shifted, and body language turned hostile, as if everyone in the room was suddenly choosing sides in a battle they never saw coming. The courtroom's silence between outbursts was reportedly just as intense, loaded with unspoken accusations and boiling resentment. This chaotic eruption marks the very first undeniable glimpse of fractures within the family dynamic. Cracks that suggest deeper conflicts, unresolved resentment, and emotional wounds that didn't form overnight. Even those closest to the situation appear shaken, caught between loyalty, anger, and confusion. For fans and insiders alike, this moment becomes the turning point that signals something far more serious than rumors or gossip. This isn't just a public scandal, it's a private implosion spilling into the legal system. The courtroom war zone becomes proof that the situation involving Yandy, Mendeecees, and Tamar isn't just messy, it's volatile, unpredictable, and powerful enough to alter relationships, reputations, and the entire narrative moving forward. This was no routine appearance. It was the official eruption of a storm that had been quietly building behind closed doors, now unleashed in the most dramatic way possible, in a moment that would become the centerpiece of the unfolding storm surrounding Yandy Smith, Mendeecees Harris, and Tamar Braxton. The tension inside the courtroom reaches a boiling point when Tamar allegedly steps forward and directly calls out Yandy for what she describes as hidden betrayals, words that instantly freeze the room and shift the energy from tense to explosive. For years, Tamar and Yandy had existed in the same reality TV universe with polite distance and occasional friction. But no one imagined that simmering history would erupt so publicly and so forcefully. According to multiple accounts, Tamar's voice, sharp, emotional, and unwavering, cuts through the courtroom like a blade, addressing not just surface-level disagreements, but suggesting deeper secrets, private wounds, and actions that have been quietly brewing beneath the image of unity. The sheer bluntness of her accusations shocks everyone present. Even those who came prepared for drama find themselves stunned by the rawness of her words. It no longer sounds like a misunderstanding or a passing dispute. It feels personal, deliberate, and fueled by long-standing resentment. In that instant, years of subtle tension seemed to detonate, revealing that this confrontation wasn't born overnight, but was the eruption of something buried, ignored, and festering. Gasps ripple across the room as Tamar's accusations drag the past into the present, hinting at unresolved conflicts, miscommunication, and emotional betrayals that the public never saw. Yandy's reaction, reportedly stunned and momentarily speechless, only intensifies the impact, giving weight to the possibility that something real and painful lies underneath. What makes the moment even more volatile is how quickly neutral family members, previously uninvolved and attempting to stay out of the spotlight, are suddenly thrust into the conflict. Their names surface in the heat of the argument, transforming observers into participants and forcing people who once considered themselves bystanders to choose sides. Some family members are visibly shaken while others respond defensively, escalating the emotional chaos and shattering any illusion of unity. The confrontation becomes more than a personal clash, it becomes a public unmasking, exposing fractures in relationships once assumed to be solid and revealing emotional scars that reality TV cameras never captured. In that single explosive exchange, Tamar doesn't just spark controversy, she ignites the fire that turns a private family struggle into a full-scale, uncontrollable war, marking the moment the scandal shifts from rumor to undeniable reality. As the turmoil surrounding Yandy Smith, Mendeecees Harris, and Tamar Braxton intensifies, Mendeecees suddenly finds himself positioned at the center of a storm he never intended to fuel, torn painfully between loyalty, love, and the crushing weight of public perception. For years, he has worked tirelessly to rebuild his life, protect his family, and maintain a sense of stability in a world where every misstep becomes a headline. But this explosive confrontation forces him into an emotional battlefield with no clear path forward. With Tamar's accusations echoing through the courtroom and Yandy visibly shaken, all eyes shift to Mendeecees, as though he holds the power to resolve the chaos, but his attempt to mediate only worsens the situation. When he steps in, hoping to calm emotions and restore order, his words are misunderstood, fueling even more tension and giving the impression that he's choosing sides. The pressure becomes suffocating as he tries to maintain loyalty to Yandy while acknowledging Tamar's intense emotional claims. And the public begins dissecting every facial expression, every pause, every sentence, turning him into a symbol of betrayal, weakness, or guilt depending on which narrative fans buy into. Inside the courtroom, witnesses describe him as visibly overwhelmed, pacing, voice trembling, struggling to hold on to his composure as the people he cares about weaponize their pain against one another. The emotional strain pushes him dangerously close to a breaking point, and for perhaps the first time publicly, Mendeecees appears uncertain, not just about how to navigate the moment, but about the stability of the relationships he has built and defended for so long. Doubts he never imagined himself having begin to surface. Is his marriage as unshakable as he believed? Have hidden tensions been building behind his back? Has loyalty blinded him to truths he never wanted to confront? The weight of social media speculation, fan judgment, and family fractures forces him into a space of introspection he can't escape. What started as a legal proceeding spirals into a personal crisis, leaving Mendeecees questioning not only the intentions of those around him, but his own ability to hold everything together. In this moment, he is no longer just a husband, a partner, or a public figure. He becomes a man standing in the middle of emotional shrapnel, desperately trying to protect everyone while silently unraveling himself. As the chaos surrounding Yandy, Smith, Mendeecees, Harris, and Tamar Braxton reaches its peak, the impact doesn't stop at the three central figures it detonates across their families, creating a divide so deep it begins reshaping relationships that once felt unbreakable. What started as a confrontation in a courtroom spills outward like wildfire, igniting tension among relatives who had long stayed silent, neutral, or distant. In hushed whispers at first, then in open, heated arguments, family members begin clashing over who is right, who is wrong, and who has been hiding truths all along. Loyalties that once appeared solid begin to fracture as relatives subtly choose sides, some defending Yandy with fierce protectiveness, others expressing empathy toward Tamar's emotional outburst, and a few questioning Mendeecees' role and responsibility in the escalating mess. The conflict becomes a mirror, reflecting years of unspoken resentment, buried disagreements, and unresolved wounds that were quietly tucked away to maintain family peace. Suddenly, old grievances resurface, some dating back before marriages, fame, or television, revealing that this divide didn't form overnight. It was built on long-standing tension that finally found its breaking point. What shocks everyone most is how one's private secrets begin spilling into the open for the first time. In moments of anger and desperation, relatives call out past betrayals, hidden conversations, and conflicts the public never knew existed, forcing everyone involved to confront truths they spent years avoiding. The emotional eruption turns family gatherings, group chats, and phone calls into battlegrounds, with former allies turning cold and previously distant members stepping in with bold opinions. Close friends, many of whom have been intertwined with the family's public journey, are pulled into the turmoil as well, forced to confront their own loyalties and reputations. Some try to mediate, others add fuel to the fire, and a few begin distancing themselves entirely to protect their own peace and public image. The shockwaves ripple far beyond the immediate circle, shaking fan communities, business partnerships, and long-standing support networks tied to Yandy and Mendeecees' public brand. The once cohesive unit that projected strength, unity, and resilience now appears splintered, fragile, and riddled with emotional landmines. In this moment, the scandal is no longer just a headline. It becomes a deeply personal fracture, revealing that when loyalty is tested and truth comes to light, even family can become the fiercest battlefield of all. In a moment that instantly becomes the most shocking turning point in the unfolding saga involving Yandy Smith, Mendeecees Harris, and Tamar Braxton. The entire courtroom freezes when Yandy delivers a chilling statement that no one fans, family, or insiders ever imagined they would hear. With voices still echoing from arguments and accusations, Yandy suddenly breaks through the chaos and admits, in a trembling but unmistakably clear tone, that she is no longer certain about the future of her marriage. The words hit like an emotional explosion, silencing the room in an instant. For years, Yandy had been the picture of composure, strong, strategic, polished, and unshakable in her loyalty to Mendeecees, even through prison sentences, public scrutiny, and the relentless pressure of reality television. But in that single confession, her composure cracks, revealing a level of emotional exhaustion that had been hidden behind calm smiles and confident statements. Her voice wavers, her posture falters, and for the first time, those watching see a woman who has been silently carrying a weight that has finally become too heavy to bear. Insiders later claim that this wasn't a spontaneous reaction, but a decision and doubt that had been quietly building for months. Private conversations, late-night arguments, internal fears, and moments of loneliness that never made it to the cameras. According to those close to her, Yandy had been questioning whether loyalty had turned into sacrifice, whether partnership had turned into isolation, and whether her marriage had been slowly crumbling beneath the pressure long before the courtroom confrontation ever happened. The bombshell doesn't just shake Mendeecees, it ripples through everyone present, instantly reshaping the narrative. Family members gasp, attorneys freeze mid-sentence, and even Tamar, moments earlier fueled by anger, appears stunned into silence. In that instant, the scandal shifts from external accusations to an internal collapse, revealing that the deepest wound may not be the public drama, but the private unraveling of a marriage once seen as unbreakable. This declaration becomes the defining turning point of the entire storyline, the moment where speculation transforms into reality, where emotional fractures become undeniable, and where the world realizes that this isn't just a public feud, but a deeply personal breaking point. Yandy's words mark the beginning of a new chapter, not just in the scandal, but in her own life, a chapter driven by truth, pain, and the possibility that everything she built with Mendeecees may now be hanging by a thread. Once the shocking courtroom events involving Yandy Smith, Mendeecees Harris, Kay, and Tamar Braxton leak beyond the courthouse walls, the private chaos instantly transforms into a global spectacle, proving that in the world of reality TV, nothing stays contained for long. Within minutes, hashtags erupt across platforms, hashtag Team Yandy, hashtag Mendeecees Truth, hashtag TAMAR Speaks, and dozens more climbing trending lists as clips, quotes, and alleged eyewitness accounts begin circulating at lightning speed. Fan pages start dissecting every detail, bloggers upload breakdown videos, and gossip sites publish headline after headline, each one more dramatic than the last. Millions of viewers who weren't anywhere near the courtroom suddenly step into this story, forming theories, choosing sides, and adding fuel to a fire already burning out of control. Some fans insist Tamar exposed necessary truths. Others defend Yandy with unwavering loyalty, and many accuse Mendeecees of hiding something deeper, turning comment sections into battlegrounds filled with anger, sympathy, speculation, and conspiracy. Memes, reaction videos, TikTok timelines, and live-stream debates flood the internet, dragging the situation into a non-stop 24/7 conversation where strangers feel entitled to judge the most intimate parts of their lives. What once was a family crisis now becomes entertainment for the world. A storyline people consume, critique, and sensationalize without ever considering the emotional devastation behind it. Public scrutiny intensifies the private pain. Yandy's heartbreaking confession becomes a viral soundbite. Mendeecees' visible distress turns into a meme, and Tamar's confrontation is replayed thousands of times, stripped of context and amplified into something even bigger and harsher than reality. Friends, colleagues, and even celebrities begin weighing in, posting cryptic messages, interviews, and reactions that only deepen the confusion and heighten the drama. Suddenly, everyone is an investigator, everyone is an expert, and everyone believes they know the truth. Meanwhile, the people at the center of Yandy, Mendeecees, and Tamar lose control of their own narrative as the internet twists their pain into entertainment. Every silence becomes suspicious, every post becomes a clue, and every move becomes a headline. The scandal is no longer theirs to manage. It belongs to the public, reshaped, exaggerated, and consumed by millions who don't see the human cost behind the chaos. In this moment, the fallout becomes bigger than a relationship, bigger than a courtroom, and bigger than the truth itself, marking the point where the story stops being personal and becomes a full-blown cultural eruption. As the public frenzy surrounding Yandy Smith, Mendeecees Harris, and Tamar Braxton grows louder, the real devastation unfolds away from cameras, microphones, and trending hashtags behind closed doors, where the emotional cost of the chaos becomes painfully impossible to hide. The moment the courtroom disperses, family members retreat into private spaces, hallways, waiting rooms, stairwells, parked cars, only for those spaces to become extensions of the same explosive tension. Witnesses describe scenes of emotional collapse, relatives crying into their hands, voices cracking under pressure, and people who once appeared composed now shaking with panic, fear, and heartbreak. The adrenaline that kept everyone standing moments earlier begins to wear off, revealing exhaustion, vulnerability, and raw human pain that no headline could ever capture. Quiet confrontations turn into whispered arguments, and whispered arguments flare into full-blown breakdowns as long-buried feelings spill into the open. Accusations, apologies, and desperate pleas echo through the hallways, painting a picture of a family emotionally unraveling in real time. In the midst of this chaos, shocking second confrontation allegedly erupts between Tamar and Yandy, far from the courtroom floor, but just as explosive. Words fly like sparks, fueled by hurt, frustration, and unresolved tension from the earlier clash. This time, without judges, lawyers, or formalities, the exchange becomes even more personal, raw, and unfiltered. Onlookers report raised voices, trembling hands, and visible distress as the two women collide again, their emotions no longer contained by public composure. Mendeecees, already stretched to his breaking point, is said to look shattered, caught between the two forces pulling his world apart, unable to stop the emotional wreckage unfolding in front of him. Family members who once acted as buffers crumble under the weight, some breaking down in tears, others walking away in silence, unable to process the unraveling of relationships they believed were secure. In these hidden moments, stripped of cameras and crowds, the scandal stops feeling like entertainment and becomes heartbreakingly real. The smiles, reunions, and strength showcased on reality TV fade, replaced by fear, confusion, and emotional wounds too deep to mask. For the first time, the human cost becomes undeniable. This isn't just a storyline or a trending topic. It's a family in pain, relationships on the verge of collapse, and lives forever altered by a single day that spiraled beyond control. Behind those closed doors, the reality is clear. No one is walking away from this untouched. When the sun rises on the aftermath of the explosive saga involving Yandy Smith, Mendeecees Harris, and Tamar Braxton, the world outside may still be buzzing, but behind the scenes, everything is eerily quiet, heavy, and suffocating. The chaos of the previous days, shouting, accusations, tears, viral headlines, gives way to a haunting stillness where every person involved is forced to face the emotional wreckage left behind. For Yandy, the morning brings a sobering clarity she cannot ignore. After years of fighting for her family, defending her marriage, and standing strong in the spotlight, she suddenly feels the need to step back, breathe, and gain distance from the storm she once believed she could withstand. Sources close to her say she withdraws from calls, ignores messages, and seeks solitude, not out of anger, but out of sheer exhaustion, needing time to process the possibility that her marriage may be more fragile than she ever allowed herself to admit. The woman who always had answers now sits with questions she never wanted to ask. Meanwhile, Mendeecees wakes up consumed by a crushing mix of guilt, pressure, and the suffocating weight of public judgment. Every headline feels like a blow. Every comment a reminder that his personal pain has become entertainment for millions. He replays the courtroom chaos in his mind, his failed attempts to mediate, the cracks in his family, Yandy's heartbreaking confession, and wonders where he went wrong, how he could have prevented the collapse, and whether he unknowingly became the trigger. The man who always tried to be protector now feels powerless. He's trapped between love, responsibility, and the fear of losing everything he holds dear. Tamar, too, finds herself wrestling with emotions she never anticipated. What began as a moment of confrontation, fueled by buried tension, now feels heavier, deeper, and more devastating than she imagined. Insiders say Tamar reflects quietly, realizing that while her words were rooted in raw truth and pain, she never intended for the aftermath to spiral into heartbreak, fractures, and public warfare. In her silence, she grapples with regret, pride, and the understanding that she played a part in igniting a fire no one can put out. Across all three lives, one realization settles like a shadow: nothing will ever return to the way it was. Trust has been shaken, relationships altered, and the foundation of their once publicly admired dynamic shattered. The morning after isn't a resolution, it's a reckoning. A quiet acknowledgement that yesterday changed everything. And the road ahead is uncertain, fragile, and forever different. As the dust settles, leanly just barely after the dramatic courtroom confrontation between Yandy Smith, Mendeecees Harris, and Tamar Braxton, the family stands at a precipice, facing shifts that may be irreversible. The once tightly knit bonds now show cracks so deep that even casual observers sense the tension lingering like an unhealed wound. Conversations that once flowed with comfort now require calculation. Every glance, every word carries the weight of past betrayals, recent explosions, and the looming threat of further unraveling. Insiders report that Yandy, Mendeecees, and Tamar are all acutely aware that the private truths they once shielded are now public property, dissected endlessly on social media, scrutinized in tabloids, and debated by millions who feel entitled to judge the most intimate corners of their lives. The struggle between public image and private reality has never been sharper. Yandy's composure, previously her strongest armor, is now tempered by vulnerability, forcing her to confront not only her own emotions, but the expectations of the world watching. Mendeecees wrestles with loyalty, love, and responsibility, realizing that his attempts to balance these forces have consequences far beyond his control. Tamar, meanwhile, reflects on the unintended fallout of her confrontation, understanding that even truth, when delivered with intensity, can ripple unpredictably through the lives of those involved. Friends, relatives, and close associates are caught in the crossfire, forced to navigate alliances, loyalties, and emotions that were once simple, now layered with suspicion and tension. The family's private narrative, carefully managed for years, has shattered, leaving them exposed, vulnerable, and uncertain about how to proceed. Fans and insiders alike speculate endlessly: are we witnessing the final collapse of a once solid marriage? Or is this just the opening act of a drama that will continue to evolve? Every statement, every social media post, every public appearance now carries the potential to shift perception, spark new debates, and redefine the trajectory of their relationships. The lingering suspense is almost unbearable. Will reconciliation, understanding, or forgiveness ever be possible? Or has this confrontation permanently altered the course of Yandy and Mendeecees' life together? The answer remains unknown, hanging in the balance like a storm on the horizon. Almanus, unpredictable and potentially explosive. One thing is certain: this moment marks more than a scandal. It is a turning point that will shape the family's emotional landscape, public image, and private dynamics for months, perhaps years, to come. As the world watches, we are left with the ultimate question: is this the end of a union once thought unshakable, or merely the beginning of a much larger, more dramatic chapter yet to unfold?